Residents of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, are voting in municipal elections. It's the East African country's first direct polls in nearly 60 years. It marks a break from the clan-based voting system that's been in place since 1969. Now, the vote has been postponed 3 times this year. It comes under a complete citywide lockdown amid security concerns. It's being viewed as a test run for direct elections at the national level. Nearly 400,000 voters are expected to cast ballots. And expectations on this historic day in Mogadishu are high.
In the past, people would be bribed for votes, but now you're free to vote for who you want.
My name is Mohammed Ibrahim Jama. I left home at 5:30 a.m. to take part in the election and have my voice heard.
I hope today's opportunity to vote will become even better for our children and future generations.
I'm a witness to history and happy that Somali youth have finally been given the chance to take advantage and vote.
And for more on these local elections in Somalia, we can speak to DW's East Africa correspondent Edith Kimani in Nairobi. Edith, what is the situation on the ground? How is this voting unfolding?
Well, we've heard a little bit there from our reporting. There was quite a bit of excitement this morning as people made sure that they were counted and present to make sure that their vote counted. Now, security is probably the biggest concern, not just in Mogadishu, the capital, but in the entire country. And so streets have been closed off to vehicles, meaning a lot of people have had to walk to their polling stations. And many of them said that this was not an issue for them. They were not afraid of Al-Shabaab either, with some of whom who spoke to DW saying that while they are alive to the threat of this insurgency group, that the idea of voting for them, for the first time, many of them, was bigger than the threat of Al-Shabaab.
And as you mentioned, this is the first for many of these people. These local elections are the first direct one-person, one-vote elections in Somalia since 1969. Why has it been so long?
Well, that's right. With the exception of the breakaway region of Somaliland and the semi-autonomous region of Puntland, mainland Somalia has not had elections in nearly 6 decades, as we're reporting. And that's because after their last direct poll, that was in 1969, the country then fell into a coup and eventually a civil war which dragged on for many, many years. It was only until 2004 that an indirect system of voting was introduced. Now, in this system, representatives of clans, this is the social networks of Somalia, clans are very powerful, and those representatives then pick the parliament, and parliament then picks the president. But as you said, this is a test run to see if this is successful. Then potentially next year, when Somalis go to the poll, they could have a direct national vote for their president.
Right, and apart from the model for a presidential vote, if this vote is a success, it could also mean what could this also mean, rather, for the fight against Al-Shabaab militants who control a big part of the country?
It would signal first for the national government that there's stability, and stability does not breed well for the Al-Shabaab, who will certainly be watching to see how this local election is running. And that's because the national government would then be able to direct their military capacity against the fight on Al-Shabaab. Beyond that, there's also the economic prospect. Somalia is a country that's dependent almost entirely on foreign aid. A stable Somalia means better economic prospects for its youth there. If the youth are secure, if the youth have money, if the youth have jobs, then there's a less likelihood of them to be militarized or to be convinced through financial gain to join the Al-Shabaab. And so they will certainly be watching the Al-Shabaab militia and the militants to see if this is successful, because it could be bad news for them if it is.
DW correspondent Edith Kimani, thank you for bringing us up to speed.